I have never felt as many emotions while watching a movie as I did while watching Ammu. I went from throwing my feet up and giggling to crying to anger to finally feeling hopeful, all in the span of 2 hours. Welcome to this week's Katha. I'm your host Manasvi, and today we're going to be talking about Ammu. This is another Telugu movie, the second that I'm covering after Gudachari, and I think this one is actually a prime original. Ammu is a drama thriller that deals with domestic abuse, and more specifically marital domestic abuse. So with that, I want to warn everyone, as always, if you're not comfortable or not in the right headspace for it, please take care of yourself and go watch some cat videos or read a book or do my favorite thing in the whole world and roll around on your floor of your living room. And I will see you next time. For those of you who will continue watching or listening after this, feel free to leave at any time if it gets too much, and I will also be linking some resources down below, so use them if you need it. Now, let's hear Ammu's story. It's raining outside, causing the lights in this house to go out. So a hand starts lighting the candles throughout the house, and in the background, the song Ahana Pelanta is playing. And just to explain the cultural significance of this song, Ahana Pelanta is a song from the 1957 movie Maya Bazaar, and this movie is a Telugu cult classic and probably one of the most joyous movie experiences I've ever had. It's one of Savitri's movies, and she's had a very tragic life that I will be covering at one point. There was an autobiographical movie that was released in 2018 about her life, and it was just so good. Anyway, Ahana Pelanta is a really fun song about a girl who's excited about her marriage to this man who's supposed to be like the man of all men. It's really cute, and I'll link it down below if you want to listen to it. But this song is the song that's playing in the background as these candles are being lit. And in the bedroom, a young woman is dressed in a beautiful sari. She's putting flowers in her hair when a young girl starts asking her questions. Ammu, are you really going to marry our next door neighbor, Ravi? Yeah, why? Do you like him? I think I like him. Why? I don't really know. Then why are you marrying him? Why do you need to know? Do you want to marry him? Me? Absolutely not. No, I'm scared of him. Why are you scared? Did he ever say anything to you? No, but I'm scared just looking at him. He's so big, and whenever we play around near his bike, he makes his eyes go really wide and he just looks at us, and we all used to get really scared and run away. Are you not scared, Ammu? And Ammu finds this so cute, so she gets up from where she's seated in front of her vanity and goes over to tickle the little girl sitting on the bed. You're the one who's a big gangster around here. Everyone should be scared looking at you. And Ammu and this little girl are having a lot of fun when Ammu's mom walks in and puts an end to their laughing session. Ammu, what are you doing? Look at your sari. It's all wrinkled. Are you a little girl? Everyone is waiting for you outside and you're here playing like a little kid. Her mom gets down to adjust Ammu's sari and is about to lead Ammu away when Ammu holds on to her. Mom, is everything okay? Her mom does like this motion with her hands, and the hand gesture is one that you do when a person that you're looking at is just so cute or so pretty that you're just overcome with love, and you want to make sure that the evil eye stays away. And the evil eye is really just people who are jealous of this person, and they just want to make sure that random people's jealousy isn't affecting your health and your mental well-being. So her mom goes like this, says everything is fine, and pulls Ammu out of her bedroom. And in the living room is Ravi, who looks at her and smiles. His parents are also there. There's fruit set out on the table, and just so no one is lost, this is what we call a pelichupulu, which is basically when the girl's family and the guy's family meet, and the girl and the guy get time to know each other. The parents get to know their son-in-law/daughter-in-law, and the two sets of parents get to know each other. I know that arranged marriages have this really bad stigma associated with them nowadays, and honestly it's justified because it used to be really freaking bad. Like, women usually didn't get a say, and people only had 1 or 2 meetings before they had to choose to marry this person. FYI, this is going to be a really hot take, but I think the landscape has changed a lot these days. Like, now when I hear a lot of Indian parents talking about it, actually, I guess I can only speak for the folks that my parents interact with, but when they speak about it, it seems to be more like a blind date kind of situation, except instead of your friends setting you up, it's your parents, which, I don't know, it doesn't seem much different than, I guess, instead of dating apps introducing you to people, it's your parents that are going to introduce you to people. Sorry for all of the tangents. I just want to make sure that the culture is being carried along because this is my culture and I have insights into it. So anyway, Ravi's father asks Ammu to sit down in front of him, and everyone is just trying to make Ammu feel at ease, comfortable, because It's not like these people are strangers. They have been Ammu's neighbors for as long as she's been alive. Ammu has a huge smile on her face as she sits down, and Ravi's father laughs. I saw her fighting with someone in front of the water tank the other day, and I thought that she was one very stubborn girl. But look at how demure she looks right now. It's so different. Like they're like two completely different sets of people. And her father pipes up, "Oh, don't you worry. She is still the same stubborn girl." Everyone laughs and Ravi's father sighs. We've been neighbors for so long. If these two had just found their way to each other somehow, then we could have skipped this whole thing. Meaning he wishes that they would have just dated and then they could have gotten married without having to go through this entire formal process of the families meeting and getting together and whatnot. Meanwhile, Ravi and Ammu are flirting with each other with their eyes from across the room. Ravi's father then asks Ammu and Ravi to go stand next to each other so that everyone that's in the room for this function can kind of see if the two of them would make a good pair. Ravi is a bit hesitant, but when his dad pushes him a little bit, the two of them go to stand in the middle of the room. Their shoulders touch, and the two of them look at each other in the eyes. And the next thing we know, they are laying in bed next to each other, breathing really hard. Ravi is shirtless and Ammu is sweating, so fill in the blanks. Ammu starts giggling before the giggling turns into full-blown laughter. Ravi is smiling ear to ear, wondering why she's laughing so hard, and the two of them have a cute little cuddle session. So the implication is that they have now gotten married and are now in the honeymoon stage of their marriage. The next morning, Ammu and Ravi are getting dressed when Ammu asks Ravi what time he needs to be at the station tomorrow. I have to be there at 8 a.m. sharp. Since it's my first day, it won't be a good look if I'm late. Then eat breakfast and go, okay? Yeah, of course, I can do that. Then what about lunch? Will you come home and eat? I can't, especially since I've just joined, but don't worry, I'll plan something. There's a hotel right next door. Anyway, will you be okay all alone? Oh my gosh, why did you have to remind me of that right now? I am freaked out. In my entire life, I've never once been alone. Who would dare come near the wife of an inspector? Ammu. Oh, and what will my police inspector husband do if someone comes near me? And Ravi responds with a movie quote, and Ammu responds in kind with a movie quote of their own. They are both laughing by the end of it, and Ravi turns to face Ammu, who is now sitting next to him. I want to give you a gift. What do you want? Why? You want to gift me something for my movie performance just now? No, it's not that. It's just that we've been together. It's been a few days since we've gotten married, and I just haven't gotten you anything. Ammu starts thinking, and after a few seconds, Ravi playfully pinches her nose. Why don't you think about it until next week? All right, I'm sorry. I remember what it is now. I left my sewing machine at my mom's house when I came here, and I want a new one. I thought you would ask for a teddy bear or a chocolate or a sari. Looks like I got my work cut out for me. Why do you need a sewing machine anyway? To earn money, obviously. Oh my god, no way, no. A man who lives off of his wife's money isn't a man at all. Why? Are you gonna melt if I earn a little bit of money? What? No, that's not what I mean. Absolutely not. It's just that I gave your mom and dad my word that I will take good care of you. And as a good husband, it is my duty to make sure you never want for anything in your life. Oh? You'll fulfill all of my wishes then? Of course. And the two of them get back into bed to have a little bit of fun. The next morning, Ammu wakes up with a big smile on her face and she washes her face, picks up the newspapers in front of their house and makes 2 cups of coffee. And she's leaving the kitchen when Ravi comes up behind her. He lifts her up and spins her around, causing the coffee in the cups to fall to the floor. And he sets her back down onto her feet and starts kissing her neck before turning her around. Ammu warns him to be careful about the coffee, but the man could care less about his caffeine at the moment. But alas, life still has to continue, so while Ravi is changing into his police uniform, Ammu makes dosa, which is just an Indian breakfast, and she goes to place the dosa on Ravi's plate, but before she can finish placing it, he picks up his plate that was sitting on the dining room table and brings it out to the living room. He wants to eat out there, so they both eat in the living room, finish up breakfast, and Ammu walks him to the gate. Ravi takes a few steps towards his police car, but then turns around and comes to where Ammu is standing, kisses her hand before leaving, for real this time. Ammu spends the rest of the day cleaning and rearranging the house, and when Ravi comes back home, he is stunned at how beautiful their house is now. He pulls her close and she cuddles him into him. They have another steamy night, and Ammu is blushing looking at the love bites that he left on her neck, and honestly, life is great for Ammu. Ravi loves spending time with her both at night and during the day, and they're always making each other laugh. Ravi doesn't even hesitate to show his affection for her when Ammu is on video calls with her parents, which is a really big deal for Indians, by the way. Ammu actually even ends up introducing herself to her next door neighbor, Linny, and she's exploring the properties that they have, and she even finds this old abandoned shed on their property. Her parents visit her every now and then, and she's gotten introduced to Ravi's friends and colleagues, so they all play cricket together sometimes. And one day, Ammu has a brilliant idea. Her husband has been eating lunch at this hotel for weeks now, and she thought it would be cute to bring him lunch. So she spends a couple hours preparing lunch for him. And in India, you usually bring lunch in these like layered boxes. You can think about it as layered bento boxes, but they're made out of steel instead of plastic, and they're usually like 4 or 5 layers high. So she packs the box and brings it over to the police station. Everyone at the station is surprised and happy to see her there, and Ravi is ecstatic. That day for lunch, they're both smiling ear to ear while she plates food for him, and as Ammu is walking out of the station, one of the policemen, Iqbal, tells Ravi, "In my many years of service, this is the first time I'm seeing someone bring lunch. She must love you a lot." Ravi is smiling as Ammu gets into an auto, which is just like a 3-wheeler car, where the sides are open, and they wave at each other and Ammu heads home. Later that night, 2 policemen show up at her house with a brand new sewing kit. It's his gift for her, and when Ravi comes home, she gives him a tight hug and says, "I love you." The next day, Ravi is getting debriefed about some surprise inspection that's happening involving one of their higher-ups, and the criminal that they are escorting gets intrigued by this story and asks questions about it, but Ravi smacks him in the back of the head, telling him to mind his own business. When Ravi walks into the station, he sees an older woman complaining to one of his officers, and she has this like younger girl sitting next to her. They all, as in like the officers, the women, and everybody in the station really stand up when they see Ravi. "What's the case?" "It's a molestation case, sir. We're noting it down." "All right, sit down and take care of it." The woman and the officers, all of them, everyone in the station, sits down, and the mom continues with her complaint. "Sir, look at what they did to my daughter. If you had just kept an eye on where your daughter was going and when she was leaving, then something like this wouldn't have happened, right? What's the point of crying about it now?" God, this is infuriating. Like, I know that this is a fictional story, but it is still very much based on how people still think, and this is absolutely maddening. The mom counters this statement with her circumstances and says, "How can I do that, sir? All of my time is used up working. Her father is good for nothing, so who else is supposed to look after her?" "Ma'am, how much can the police really do? There are only 10 of us for this entire area. It's not possible for us to guard every alleyway. Plus, you're the one who gave birth to her, so you should be the one to look after her." And he turns his head to the sidewalk, clicking his tongue. Ravi, who has overheard this conversation, yells at his officer. "They came here because they thought that we would help. Where the hell do you expect them to go if we don't help them? It is our duty to protect them. Not only that, it is our duty to protect all the women in our area." The officer he's yelling at tries to defend himself, saying that that's not what he meant, but Ravi just doesn't want to hear it. Instead, he kneels down in front of the daughter. "Please don't cry. I will definitely catch them, and I'll make sure that this doesn't happen to anyone else. Look at me, please. There is absolutely no reason for you to hide your face. The ones to hide their face should be them because of the things they did, not you." The girl lets down the scarf that she's using to cover her face, and Ravi leads the 2 women out. He then turns around and sets up a volunteer program. It's clear that the 10 officers that they have can't inspect the entire area that they're in charge of. So he goes on to suggest that they use volunteers around the town to scope out the streets for them. Whenever they find something suspicious, their duty is to report it back to the station. The only problem, though, is that to implement a system like this, they need to get permission from Ravi's senior, his superior, and that's not always easy to do, but for Ravi, that's like a walk in the park. He has a really good relationship with his senior, so nothing is really gonna stop this from happening. Ammu, in the meantime, is having fun with her new sewing machine, and she's showing it off to her neighbor Linny, bragging about how it's the latest model. Linny is absolutely so happy for her because it looks like Ravi really loves her, and what more could somebody ask for? And it's almost like he knows he's being spoken about because Ammu's phone rings and Ravi's name shows up. Ammu picks up the phone with the biggest smile on her face. "Hello, we were just... Where the hell are you? Huh?" It's past 1 p.m. Where the hell are you wandering around? I'm at home. At home? What the fork are you doing at home? Don't you know that I'll be waiting for my lunch? Lunch? Ammu, are you bringing me lunch or not? I was just a little late getting started on lunch, but I'm coming. I'm leaving right now. And instead of responding, Ravi cuts the call. She ends up at the station at around 1:45, and Ravi is sitting in his police office looking pissed off. He washes his hands while Ammu plates the food, and she's about to put rice on his plate when he holds out his hand over the plate, and Ammu freezes. I'm going to ask you something. Tell me the truth. Yeah, go ahead. Were you really delayed because you were making lunch, or did you just forget to bring it? Or did you think that feeding me was not your duty anymore? Ammu lowers her head, unsure whether she should lie or not, and like a snake, Ravi can see her hesitation. Ammu, you know that this is a police station and that I am a police. If you lie, you'll get caught. I didn't realize that I needed to bring you lunch today. Ravi gets up and walks away from his plate towards his desk. Ravi, what happened? I don't need the scraps that you want to throw at me. Thank you so much for working so hard and bringing me lunch. No, that's not what I meant, Ravi. Please just eat a little bit. I'll never be late again. I understood exactly what you meant. I won't ever inconvenience you again, even if I'm dying. I'll struggle on my own. I'm so sorry for bothering you. Ravi, that's not what I meant. I have a lot of work, Ammu. If you feel uncomfortable to leave right now, then sit over there for 10 minutes and leave after. If you leave early, people will start to talk, and I don't want that. I don't understand why you're doing this, Ravi. Please just eat something, just something. Ravi looks at her with big eyes. Ammu? And Ammu backs away from the desk and sits down on the sofa watching as he drinks water. She tries calling out to him again, but instead of responding to her, he calls for Satya, one of the officers at the station, and Ammu takes this as her cue to start packing up. When Satya enters the room, he does a little pretend burp to make it seem like he ate, and then instructs Satya to call an auto for Ammu. Ammu goes home absolutely distraught because she thinks that she just let the person that she loves so much down, and she waits for him outside, and when Ravi comes home, she tries to talk to him. How was your day today? But he doesn't respond to her. He goes straight inside and sits down on their sofa while Ammu gets dinner plated for him, and she eagerly puts the plate in front of him. Here, have some food. I'm not hungry. You eat. Good night. And he walks off into their bedroom. That night is the first night in a long time where he doesn't make a move on her, so Ammu tries to initiate contact instead. But instead of reciprocating, he says, "Are you not gonna let me sleep?" "No, I am not." And then she kisses him, only for Ravi to explode a couple seconds later. What the fork? Why are you so horny all the damn time? Can't you live without it for one night? Ammu gets startled and moves away from him while Ravi pulls the blanket further up his body and goes back to sleep. Ammu doesn't get much sleep that night. The next day, she shows up with lunch at 12:50 p.m. Meanwhile, Ravi's senior at work is holding a press meet to announce the new volunteer squad idea that Ravi came up with. We are picking volunteers from regular people. They will be surveying the area 24/7, and no matter what happens, their job is to inform us. We will go and solve whatever problem needs to be solved. This is going to be implemented to all the stations that are underneath my command. We believe that the crime rate will decrease drastically because of this. This idea is from our very own officer, Ravi. Ravi's superior turns and praises him, and later that night, Ravi is relaxing with his colleagues on this rooftop. They're all drinking beer while praising him, and it's such a big deal because you don't usually get praised by your senior like this, so they want him to join them tonight in their drinks. But when everyone starts pressuring Ravi, he turns to Ammu instead. "Ammu, what do you say? Can I have a drink?" And Ammu, who is talking with Satya, looks at Ravi confused. "Why are you asking me?" But it's too late, and now everyone else is pleading with her to give Ravi permission to drink. Still thoroughly confused, she says, "Why would I ever stop him?" And that's all everyone needs. They pour a glass for Ravi, and they have a great time drinking and singing that night. And in the middle of the singing, Satya gets up from her spot and puts a drink in her husband's hand before sitting back down and pouring herself a drink. Ravi, who sees this, interrupts everyone's good vibes. "Everyone, Wait a minute, I have something to say. He turns to Satya's husband. Naresh, do you know how lucky you are? You have a wife who loves and admires you so much. The two of them, as in Satya and Naresh, exchange flying kisses, and Ravi continues. They say that your life's past deeds determine this life's luck. You must have done some really great stuff in the past. That's why God gave you such a great wife this time around. But it doesn't seem like I did a lot of good. God, please forgive me, for I am a sinner. Ammu looks a little shaken and taken aback, but she laughs it off like everyone else. But then Iqbal, one of the constables, speaks up. Sir, what are you saying? Ammu ma'am has been bringing you lunch for the past month. She loves you so much. You are also very lucky. Everyone agrees, but Ravi shakes his head. Crazy, Iqbal. What do you know? That was a one-day treat. She forgot to do it the next day, you know? I had to shamelessly call her and beg her to feed me the next day. I swear she doesn't care about me at all. All day she sits at home on her little sewing machine, and they say that if lust lasts a week, then love lasts a month. After that, you spend the rest of your life waiting for death. Iqbal tries to defend Ammu again, and Satya looks visibly uncomfortable. Ammu puts a tight smile on her face while everyone else goes back to enjoying their drinks. On their way back home, it starts to rain, so the two of them, Ravi and Ammu, take cover underneath a bridge. They're driving a motorcycle, by the way. Ravi tries to wipe away some of the water that has landed on Ammu's face, but she pushes him away. What happened now? Why is your face like that? Do you not know? Seriously? Why did you belittle me in front of everyone like that? Hey, that was a joke. What am I supposed to do if you get so hurt over something like that? How can something like that be a joke? I think about you from the moment I wake up until I go to sleep. You know that. Oh, so you do something that no other wife on this planet does. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you can't say that I don't care about you at all. And that too, with people that you work with, what will they think of me? Why does it matter what they think of you? What do you mean? You don't care about what they think? Okay, fine. If I too had asked you that in front of everyone, if you knew what time I ate my lunch, would you have been able to answer? Ravi has had enough. He gets onto his bike and declares an ultimatum. Are you coming with me or not? First, answer my question. Did you ever care about me? Did you ever ask if I ate? Who am I supposed to share my pain with? Fine. You can walk home. And he leaves her there in the pouring rain. At home, Ravi is making some food for himself when there's a knock on his door. He opens the door to Ammu, who walks past him without saying a single thing or even looking at him. I need to give the auto driver money for the ride. Ravi steps out of the house to see the auto driver waiting outside of their house, and Ravi tells him that he can pick up the money tomorrow from the station before heading back inside. He sits down in the living room in front of the TV. Did you finally come to your senses? If you start talking nonsense like that ever again, I won't ever open the door for you. Ammu walks out of their bedroom on fire as well. If you do something like this ever again, I won't come back home. And the moment she finishes that sentence, Ravi's plate of food hits the wall next to her. The food splatters on her dress and the plate clatters to the floor as Ravi looks at her with angry eyes. A few moments of silence later, his eyes soften and he rushes up to her. Sorry, I shouldn't have done that. It's just that when you said that you wouldn't come back home, I just got very angry. Ammu is backed up against the wall because she's afraid of him, but he doesn't touch her. Instead, he gets very close to her, saying, don't you know that I can't survive without you? Did you ever pause and think about how saying those words would affect me? That's why I couldn't control myself. I usually don't behave like this. I'm a very sensitive person. And then he looks down at her dress and he starts wiping some of the rice that's gotten on it before holding Ammu's hand. Oh my, the rice has gotten all over your dress. I'm very sorry. Did you wait a long time for me? Are you hungry? Do you want some dosa? You can go get changed and I'll make dosa. Damn, I ruined our wall too, but don't worry, I'll clean it up. You can go. And he starts picking up the plate and the rice with his hands. And the next morning, Ravi is signing a check to his father-in-law. I know how much you had to spend for our wedding, and I know that you're now in debt. I just want to do my part. Take it. Ammu's mom refuses and her dad refuses, but Ravi doesn't back down. Auntie, call me Ravi. Why are you suddenly calling me son-in-law? I'm still the Ravi that you know. If my parents were struggling, you would also help us out, wouldn't you? Ammu is in disbelief at how freaking well her husband can act like absolutely nothing happened between them last night. When her father turns to look at her, Ravi turns to Ammu as well. Ammu, you should tell them to take it. Ammu looks at her dad. Take it, Dad. Ammu's mom thanks Ravi and he gets excited. Okay, I'm going to go to the market today and get us some fish. Today's lunch should be fantastic, Auntie. And Ravi leaves while Ammu's mother looks at her with a big smile. Ravi gets his little fish and is washing and descaling it when he hears crying somewhere nearby. And then he hears his mother-in-law's voice. Ammu, dear, what happened? Why are you crying? Come on, tell your mom. Are there any problems? Ravi sneakily gets up from his fish cleaning station and hides behind a wall so that he can hear what Ammu is saying, but none of them can see him. Mom, why did you have to rush to get me married? Her mom smiles. You think that we rushed to marry you? You are 25. Any longer and we would have been waiting to celebrate your Shashti Purti. And a Shashti Purti is a celebration that we have. It's usually celebrated on the man's 60th or 61st birthday. And it's a really cute ceremony to celebrate like the successful marriage of a man and a woman and all the years that they have shared. Most people in India get married in their early 20s. I think that's changing now, but usually if you get married in your early 20s, that means that you have been with this person for 40 years. And being able to hold up a relationship for 40 years isn't easy. So it rightfully so gets celebrated by most people. But Ammu doesn't see what's so funny about this situation. You wouldn't have lost anything if I had just been with you for a little longer. I can't even see your face when I remember you anymore. Her mom pets Ammu's face. But that's life, Ammu. No, I don't want this life. I don't like it. I want to stay with you. You shouldn't have married me at all. Ammu's mother starts kissing her face and Ravi walks away from his little hiding spot back to his fish cleaning station and ends up knocking over a bucket, causing a big ruckus. Ammu and her mom go outside to check what's happening and Ammu is frightened when she sees Ravi standing there. Sorry, my hand just slipped while I was cleaning the fish. And Ammu's mother steps forward. Oh my god, no, why are you wasting your energy on this? Let me take care of that, okay? Oh no, Auntie, don't worry. I'm so used to this already. Ammu's mom heads back inside and Ravi starts scrubbing the fish. But as he's scrubbing the fish, his eyes land on Ammu and the look in his eyes is literally murderous. But he has a smile on his face. Ammu wipes her face nervously and the four of them sit down for lunch. Ravi is acting like a doting son-in-law and Ammu is just happy spending time with her family. She's got a smile on her face as she feeds her mom. And Ravi, every time his eyes land on her, he looks like he's ready to kill. When lunch is over, Ammu is standing next to Ravi as he washes his hands. Ravi, are you angry with me? No. You're lying. I know that you're angry with me. Why? Do you really not know why? I like to eat on the sofa. I know. Then why didn't you tell them that? They wanted to eat with you. What's so wrong with that? It's just this one time. Of course, no one thinks about me. Is it my house or theirs? Why are you making such a big deal out of something so small? There's no point to this, Ravi. Ravi once again starts walking off and Ammu once again starts chasing after him. Ravi, stop! No, I don't need to stay in this house for a second longer. You're just throwing your words around as you please. Ammu grabs Ravi's arm. Ravi, stop. It won't look good if you leave like this, please. But Ravi just shrugs her off and gets onto his bike. Ammu is still pleading with him. Ravi, please, what am I supposed to tell my mom and dad? This is the first time that they came to our house to have food. If we can convince them that I'm happy, then they'll leave peacefully. Oh, so you're not happy. Okay, fine. If you're not happy, then why are you staying here? You can go leave with them. By the time I come back home, I don't want to see anyone. He turns the key to his bike, but Ammu turns it back. I'm talking to you, Ravi. Smack. He slapped her across the face. And once again, after a couple seconds of silence, Ravi looks down. Ammu starts walking away, and this time it's Ravi chasing after her. Ammu, Ammu, Ammu! He corners her between these two buildings that they have on their property, and he presses his body really close to hers. Listen to me. Just listen. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hit you. You irritated me. You grabbed my keys, and that's why I am so sorry. And he's holding her face while apologizing, and Ammu keeps trying to swat him away, but in reality, like, what can she do? She can't beat him in terms of strength. She's crying at this point. Ammu, you know, right, how much I love you? We need to be happy just like your mom and dad wish for us. Come here. I love you, Ammu. I love you, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. At this point, he's got her in a bear hug, and she can't escape it with her strength, so she gives in. Fine, I get it. And he finally lets go of her. Their conversation, I don't even know what to call this, gets interrupted by Ammu's father, who is looking for Ravi. The dad wants to get going because it's getting a little late, but Ravi, as he's petting Ammu's face, says they can go after eating ice cream. He takes Ammu's hand and leads her back inside, telling her to smile. Ammu checks her reflection in the bathroom, and you can clearly see and make out the finger markings where he had slapped her. She takes out some concealer and starts patting it on her cheeks to cover up the abuse. She lets out the last of her tears in the bathroom as well before taking a deep breath and pasting a smile onto her face. They head to a temple later in the day, and Ravi and Ammu's father head off to go wash their feet while Ammu and her mother sit on the temple steps, and Ammu's mom takes this moment to tell her child some of her thoughts. You don't know how happy it makes me to see you and Ravi like this. Do you know how scared I was before coming to your house? I was worried about how you were doing, if he was looking after you like I had hoped, but it looks like he's even better than I had imagined. He hit me, Mom. Why? What did you do? And I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I'm just getting really angry. Like, I understand that sometimes people can be annoying, but that doesn't ever give someone the right to slap someone else. And in this case, Ammu wasn't even doing anything. Ammu turns to face her mother just as appalled as I am, and she goes, why do you think I did something? I mean, Ravi is just such a good person. If you didn't do anything wrong, so, even if I did something wrong, it's okay for him to hit me? Ammu, that's not what I'm saying. Don't argue with me. What am I even supposed to tell you right now? How am I supposed to know what a mother tells her daughter at moments like this? In my unprofessional, small, humble opinion, there is no need to say anything. Just pull your daughter out of there and get out of there as fast as possible. But Ammu's mother instead says, I'll tell you what my mother told me when your dad first hit me. Dad hit you? It was only once, but I was so hurt after that. My mom sat me down and said that if he's her husband, then he'll hit you. You're not the only one to ever experience this. This won't stop after you either. You might have to experience this again and again. He's a man, and because of that, he can get angry. He goes out to work and has thousands of different things causing him headaches. Where else would he be able to show his frustrations? Of course, he'll show it out on us. If you want all the love he has to offer, then you must also be willing to bear the pain and the sadness. My mom told me that everything gets sorted once you have a child, and just like my mom said, everything settled down after I had you. But that's not what my mom should have told me. What should she have said then? A man should never lift his hand against a woman. Let's say that he did lift his hand. Then there is no reason for his wife to stay with him even for a moment longer. The bell in the temple starts to ring as Ammu asks her mom what she should do now. The mom gives a freaking cryptic do whatever you want spiel, and she even has the gall to add that if you don't do what you want, then in the future you too will have to complain about your mom like this. Like, I know it's for comedy purposes, but I was not laughing. Ammu lets out a smile as her mom takes her hand and kisses it, but her smile disappears as she looks at Ravi, wondering what she should do. That evening, Ravi and Ammu wave goodbye to her parents. Ammu is attached to the gate while Ravi is standing behind her a couple feet away, and when her parents are no longer in sight, he folds his arms and says, Ammu, come back inside. Ammu takes a deep breath and goes inside. It's a brand new day, and Ravi is on the phone talking, or more like yelling angrily at someone. He's standing in front of Ammu while she resews a button back onto his uniform. I don't know why he couldn't have just taken his shirt off, but he didn't. So Ammu is trying to needle this button back on without piercing Ravi, but the man is not making the job any easier because he's literally flailing around in his call. And the call ends and he looks down at Ammu. Hurry up, I need to get to the station. I understand. Can you stop moving around? It'll pierce you otherwise. Ravi stares for approximately 30 seconds before he smells something strange. Why does it smell like something is burning? Ammu looks over at the stove and the curry that she's making is burning, so she gives it a quick stir and then turns her attention back to her husband's shirt. Can you please keep stirring? Is that my job? I only have 2 hands, Ravi. Ravi throws this file that he has in his hands down near the stove and starts angrily mixing the curry, and his angry movements are causing his entire upper body to move, so naturally the needle pokes him. Ravi's anger explodes even further, and he brings his hand down on top of her head. Tears start welling up in Ammu's eyes, but she lowers her eyes and tries to continue fixing the buttons. It's too late though, because he's already seen the tears gathering. Oh, the waterworks have already started. You're the one who messed up, the one who bothers me, and if I do something about it, you win over me by crying, and in the end, I end up as the villain. You are so cunning. Your mom and dad raised you really well, it seems. Please stop talking nonsense. She leans in to bite off the thread because she's finished sewing his button back on when Ravi smells something burning again, and he looks down at the stove, and the file that he placed near the stove has caught on fire. He pushes Ammu off of him and tries to save the file, but it's half burnt at this point, and now he's even more pissed. He charges towards Ammu, and thank God we don't actually see what's taking place. The camera is focused on their bedroom door. Ammu and Ravi aren't in sight, but you can hear a whipping noise followed by Ammu's screams. So the inference is that he's whipping her with his belt. When he's done, he yells at her, "I'm the moron for marrying you." He whips her once more. "You better not be home by the time I come back. If I ever see you again, no one can save you from me." And he redoes his belt and leaves while Ammu is crouched in the corner crying. She somehow finds the energy to head to the train station. Her face is bruised and her lip is split on one side, so she's covering her face with a scarf, and she's sitting on the bench in the station crying when a beggar sitting a couple feet away starts talking out loud. There's no point in crying like this. If there's an issue, you should tackle it head on. If not, then you just have to live on like a mad woman. If you don't do either of those things, it's going to be tough for you. Did I ask for your advice? Mind your own business. This is my work, ma'am. I sit here and I beg the people who pass by for money. What is it that you know about me, huh? What do I know? Well, you have a wedding chain around your neck, injuries on your face, tears in your eyes, and a bag in your hands. You're sitting here wondering if you should leave your abusive husband. Isn't that it? You think that you're the first woman I'm seeing like this? Do you say this bullshit to all of them too? Of course not. I don't really like people. I like dogs. Just like me, even though all these people curse them out, they stay right where they are because they have nowhere else to go. You see those little dogs? They keep getting lost, keep getting hurt, and if you feel sorry for them and try to bring them in closer, they bark and bite you. But it's not out of arrogance, it's fear. If you want to get rid of this fear, there's only one solution. And what is that? And he turns to look at her. Do you have money? He makes her buy him chicken biryani, and the two of them sit down next to each other and eat. I thought that you would enlighten me, but you're just eating food with my money. Huh? Why would I tell you something that you already know? What do I already know? I don't know anything. I don't even know what I did that was so wrong for him to beat me like that. I only know one thing. I only know how to cry shamelessly after getting beaten. What kind of life is this? But after a few seconds, she gets confused. Are you seeing this? I didn't do anything wrong, but here I am beating myself up over this. How did I turn into this? Why is he getting so angry at me? Why is his hand coming up? I just don't understand what I did so wrong. Even then, he's not a bad person. He's not a monster. He takes care of me like no one else. It's not that he doesn't love me. It's just that sometimes he gets frustrated with the things happening around him, and that's when things like this happen. If that file didn't burn this morning, then he would have never hit me. It's not totally his fault, but my heart still hurts. This doesn't happen every day. We're fine some days, no fights. Now that I think about it, we're actually fine every day. Sometimes, just sometimes things like this happen. Just because we're fighting every now and then, it doesn't make sense to leave him, right? Is that really what you think? I mean, yeah, after everything that has happened, if I just give him a little more love and understand him a little more, he'll have to change one day. That means he has to love me to the point where he can't bear to see me sad. I just have to make him love me that much. What do you say? The beggar starts wrapping up the foil that his biryani came in. I didn't think that it would end like this. My biryani, I mean. The next time you come by here, buy me biryani again and I'll eat it again. God bless you. He gets up and walks away. Ammu sits there for a bit longer before heading home. Night has fallen and she's sitting out on the steps of her house with her bag right next to her. Ravi is standing a few feet away just watching her, and eventually he takes some steps towards her and crouches down in front of her. Did you want to leave me? I did, but I couldn't. Why? Because you're my everything. He holds her face. I know, Ammu. I won't ever be able to leave you behind. Ravi kisses her hands. I know. I'm going to stay with you forever. He kisses her forehead and then her hands. I know. You're my life, Ravi. And this time, Ammu holds his head and kisses his forehead. That night, they're intimate again for the first time in a long time. And the next morning, Ammu steps out with a gigantic smile on her face. But when Ravi sees her, he's irritated. What the hell is that? This is an official function. Who are you trying to get with being dressed like that? And you know what? She's not even wearing anything inappropriate, like even slightly. She's literally in a churidar, which is basically like a long top and long pants and a scarf. Ammu's smile drops and she quickly heads back inside to change. And the thing that makes it all so much worse is that Ravi is excellent at putting on a show. Anytime Linny is over at their house, Ravi makes it seem like he's the most doting husband in the entire world. For the duration of Linny's visits, he takes over the kitchen duties, making sure that everyone has enough to eat. But when they are alone, Ammu asks for something as simple as wanting to go watch a movie with the neighbor in front of them. And Ravi's response is, "Who the fork is going to feed me if you go? You don't need to go." Thankfully, Ammu still has her sewing machine, so she's making some money on the side, and she makes sure to hide it in their rice bin. Things, however, only get worse when one day during lunch, one of Ravi's colleagues starts handing out sweets to everyone because his wife is pregnant. Ravi acts all happy in front of everyone, but his anger has gotten worse since this news, and the beatings have become more frequent. Things have gotten so bad to the point where every time Ravi touches her, she flinches, and the forking man has the audacity to act confused when she flinches, like he doesn't understand why she's so scared. One day, Ammu is meeting with her gynecologist while shedding some tears. I don't want kids right now, doctor, but he just doesn't understand that. Then you have to take pills, Ammu, but staying silent like this isn't right. No, please don't worry about me, doctor. Everything is fine, but can you please do me a favor? The doctor tells Ravi that it doesn't matter how often they want to do it, but they have to be intimate on the 11th, 12th, and 13th of every month because that is when Ammu's ovulation period is. With that information, Ravi doesn't touch her except for the days that she's ovulating, and he makes sure to mark their calendars so that he never forgets the days. In the meantime, Ammu is dry swallowing her birth control pills secretly in the bathroom. A few more days go by and the abuse amps up some more. One day, Ammu is talking on the phone with her mother, so what does Ravi do? He goes to some store and buys this little device that will let him hear what Ammu is doing at home while he is at work. But really, all he gets from listening to the conversation is that Ammu is telling her mom that she's happy and that Ravi takes good care of her. During one of their lunch sessions with Ravi, so one of Ammu's lunch sessions with Ravi, Satya introduces her to the female volunteers who will help with surveilling the area. And one of the volunteers is Linny. During another lunch session, she sees another married woman enter the station looking absolutely disheveled, and she had come to report a domestic abuse case, and the sight of it unsettles Ammu a lot. She can't help but think, is that what I look like? At home, she looks at herself in the mirror with tears rolling down her face, and she tries to force a smile, but can only hold it for 1 second before she starts full-on bawling. She's getting more and more miserable as the days pass, and it's gotten to a point where she'll be doing something as mundane as hanging clothes out to dry, and suddenly she'll push her face into the shirt and start screaming, but she can only scream for a couple seconds before looking around to make sure that no one saw her. Ammu is visiting her doctor again, only to get the worst news of her life. She's pregnant. She doesn't understand why, and her doctor fills in the missing gaps. Ammu, if you're taking contraceptive pills, your progesterone levels should be very high, but yours are normal. Ammu has never missed taking her pills, which only leaves one possibility. Ravi found out about the pills and changed them out. Outside, the doctor lies to Ravi. I'm sorry, sir. I wish that I had good news for you. But doctor, she didn't even get her period yet. Oh, well, that could be due to a multitude of reasons. PCOD, hormonal imbalance, or sometimes even stress. Ammu is not pregnant, I'm sure about it. And one more thing, she's very weak. It's not enough to just want kids. You should also look after your wife. Do you understand that? Ravi turns to Ammu once again, looking pissed off. Later that night, Linny, who is one of the women volunteers for patrolling, is walking around when she hears a scream. A couple seconds later, a longer scream. Linny is frantically blowing her whistle while she's trying to pinpoint where that sound is coming from. And inside Ravi's house, Ammu is crouching on the ground near Ravi's feet, whimpering. She's got her hand over her mouth to try to be as quiet as possible, and it looks like Ravi had stopped because he heard the whistle go off and is now waiting until the patrolling person walks away or something. But a couple of seconds later, there's a knock on his door. It's Linny. Sir, I heard a woman scream in the area. It sounded like someone was hitting her. I can't seem to figure out where they're coming from. So what do you want me to do about that right now? Do you want me to interrupt my sleep and go work? That's not what I meant, sir. Sorry. Call Satya. Linny nods and starts walking away when Ravi calls out to her. Linny, actually, I think I heard something too. How about this? I'll ask Satya to come by tomorrow, so make sure that you guys go door to door asking everyone if something is wrong. Okay, yeah, we can do that. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry for waking you. Have a good night, sir. Ravi closes the door and turns back into his house, and Ammu is standing huddled against the bedroom door frame, just staring at him. What? Go inside. Ravi leaves for work the next morning as Linny and Satya make their rounds. Linny waves to Ammu with a smile on her face as they walk past Ravi's house, and Ammu forces a smile on her face as well. But the entire time that Linny and Satya are making rounds, Ammu is hanging around outside looking at what they are doing. I'm not sure about this, but it feels like she's hoping that they'll come ask her if those screams were hers. But as lunchtime is getting closer, she goes inside to start making lunch. She's way too distracted though and ends up cutting a little bit of her finger while chopping the vegetables. And while she's holding her finger underneath the water, she makes up her mind and walks out of the house. She starts heading towards where Satya and Linny are, but stops when she sees her husband's bike sitting in the front yard, and she runs back inside. He's made it so that he doesn't even have to be physically present for her to be afraid of him. And the only thing she can do is close her doors and panic. And then there's a knock on her door. Linny and Satya have come to update her. We can't figure out who that scream was from yesterday, Ammu. That was Linny, by the way. And Satya adds, we went to every house and asked point blank. We tried confusing them and asking again, but absolutely nothing. I really thought that we would find out who it really was. But Satya knew that it wouldn't be this easy from the beginning. Women tend to hide these sorts of things. She's seen so many cases at the station. They just don't accept the fact that they're getting abused, and to top it all off, they praise them like they're great people. They're abusers, I mean. It's like their minds stop working. You would only understand if you were in their shoes, Linny. She then turns to Ammu, asking her if she wants to come with her to the station since it's, almost lunchtime. Ammu rejects her offer and watches as both Satya and Linny walk away. Her heart rate starts picking up as the two start walking away. Her tongue feels heavy and she swallows. Wait, you didn't check one house. She sits down and tells the two of them everything. I feel ashamed to tell anyone this. I lost all the respect I had for myself. I kept my mouth shut regardless of what he did. Sometimes I feel like he'll change if we have kids, but what if he doesn't? That's why I took the pills without telling him, but I'm nothing before his intelligence. And she starts breaking down. Now I don't understand what I should do with my child. Should I even keep the baby? But that has to be my decision, not his or anyone else's. How could he do something like that without me knowing? What kind of right does he have on my body? Tell me, what right does he have? Is this the kind of person I married? Is this why he married me? Satya and Linny start crying as well, seeing Ammu break down, and then the camera turns to reveal Iqbal. He's in the room listening to what Ammu has to say. Satya had called him over because her and Linny just didn't know what to do. Iqbal is shocked. What do you mean you don't know what to do? You have to go and make a complaint to Ravi's superior. This is wrong. It doesn't matter who did it. This is wrong. I really don't want to file a complaint. I just want to run away. You're free to go wherever you want, Ammu, but you can't let someone like that roam free. Please, I can't. I really can't, Iqbal. Ammu, you will need some sort of reason to file a divorce. This should be your reason. Ammu is still hesitant, but eventually Iqbal and Satya wear her down enough, and she goes to Ravi's superior's office with Satya. She's sitting by the window while Satya is talking to the assistant about the situation. He let them go see Ravi's superior as soon as the meeting that he's in is over, but for now he tells them to follow him. What? Why? Where do you need us to go? Well, you see, Ravi comes here every day, and if he sees Ammu here, and he doesn't have to finish that sentence because we all know what would happen. So Ammu and Satya are taken to this room where they store like old furniture that they don't really use at the police station, and the two of them are sitting and waiting with bated breath when the door opens and the assistant walks in with Ravi following behind him. Ammu and Satya both get up shocked while Ravi silently walks up to where Ammu was sitting and takes a seat. What is this, Ammu? You shouldn't have done something like this. I come to this place every day. So if you were to complain to my boss, what would happen to my reputation? You shouldn't have done this, Ammu. He holds her hand in a tight grasp and pulls her to sit down next to him. Come, sit here. Satya, you take a seat too. Ammu, tell me what your problem is. I know you don't like me, but do you really hate me this much? Satya tries to intervene, but Ravi is not having it. Don't involve yourself, Satya. This is our personal matter. Sir, abusing your wife is not a personal matter. Ravi turns his predatory gaze onto Ammu. I hate you? Is that what you're going around telling everyone? Satya, you've been observing me for a year. Am I that kind of person? Do you really think I would do something like that? It's common to have misunderstandings between a wife and a husband, but that's not big enough of a problem to warrant a report to my boss. Don't you get it, Satya? She's not mentally sane. Ammu, who was staring at the ground until now, turns to look at him, and she looks so betrayed, like she was holding out hope that he was still a decent human in at least some aspect. When it looks like Satya isn't believing him, he turns to Ammu, gets a little bit closer to her face, and says, Ammu, do I hit you? Everyone is watching, so tell them, am I hitting you? He places his hand on top of hers that's resting on the bench that they're sitting on, and he squeezes. Ammu grits her teeth in pain and shakes her head no. Is that proof enough for you, Satya? Ammu, let's go home. And he drags her away from the station. Ammu looks absolutely hopeless as she walks back into her personal hell, and later that day she approaches a dusty table and runs her finger through the dust. Then she suddenly takes the end of her long top and wipes the dust, some of it at least, off of the table before going into the living room and grabbing a wet cloth before wiping down the rest of the table. Then she dusts off the bed sheets and then changes the curtains and wipes down the surfaces of everything in their living room, and then starts vigorously wiping down the floors. That's how Satya and Linny find her, as she's frantically wiping the floor with a wet cloth. Ammu, what are you doing? Oh, this? I'm cleaning. It's all dusty and trashy around the house. It wasn't like this when I first came here. I stopped caring, and that's why it became like this. It's not just the house I stopped caring about. I stopped caring about myself. I must have lost my dignity. That has to be why, because why else would I have done nothing as he dragged me away in front of everyone? But I can't be like this anymore. I can't wait thinking that someone else will come and help me. If I need something done, I have to do it myself. What can you do, Ammu? I'm going to worry about the house first, and then I'll take care of him. I need to teach him a lesson. I need to reveal who he truly is to everyone. That way he won't be able to lift his finger not only on me, but on anyone else ever again. Then I'll look into his eyes and I'll walk away, and I'll never come back. But how, Ammu? We lost the one chance we had. I don't know, but it has to happen. There just has to be a way. Just one way. And then we cut to a man who is sitting in jail chopping some vegetables while singing. His name is Prabhudas. I'm going to call him Prabhu. And honestly, he looks like he's having a great time. And his cellmates seem to love hearing him sing as well. Prabhu's uncle, visits him during visitation time. And he gets all excited because Prabhu's sister is getting married. How can she be getting married already? She was literally this small the last time I saw her. I'll never forget the look in her eyes the day the police arrested me. Do you think she'll still look at me like that? Do you think she'll like it if I show up at her wedding? I think she'll throw a fit if she sees you there, Prabhu. It doesn't matter. I need to see my sister's wedding. It's my last chance. A couple days later, he's gotten out of jail, and the first thing that he wants to do is go see his sister. He's on parole, by the way. So he ends up looking into her house through the windows with a huge smile on his face because it looks like she's doing well for herself. His peeping gets interrupted by his uncle, who tries to drag him away because Geeta, his sister, is home. But Prabhu just wants to get one look at her, so he hides behind a wall, watching as she unlocks her door. I guess Geeta can feel someone watching her, so she turns her head in Prabhu's direction, but he quickly ducks, gushing about how Geeta looks just like their mom. And then the uncle drags him away to the police station, where he finds himself sitting next to Ammu. Prabhu's nose gets activated, and the smell from the delicious lunch that Ammu made for Ravi starts tickling his little nostrils. Is it fish soup? Huh? He looks at the box next to her. Is it fish soup? Yes. My mom used to make that for us when we were young. It was delicious. My dad used to go to sea and capture fresh fish for us, and my mom would cut it into slices, marinate it with salt, pepper, chili powder, and when it was boiling, she would add a handful of bellam. That's like a sugar alternative. It's said to be healthier than just plain sugar, and it comes in like this chunky brown form. Anyway, he's gushing over the memory of his taste. It's just on a whole nother level. Ammu smiles because he's just a man who clearly loves his mom's fish soup, but both of their smiles die when Ravi walks out of his office. He had seen her smiling at Prabhu. Ravi slowly walks up to Prabhu and then turns his head towards Ammu. Go inside and get lunch ready. I'll be there soon. Ammu wordlessly heads inside while Ravi turns his attention back to Prabhu. You have a big mouth. I heard that you were a lord in jail. Your warden said so many things about you. Oh, do you mean Mr. Rao? He's just such an amazing person. The things you did in jail won't work out here. This is the place where my laws work. If you go around shaking your little butt as you please, I'm going to beat you to a pulp and put you back in the cell that you came out of. According to the warden, you have to come here every morning and evening and sign in the registry. If you miss even one day, I'm going to tear up your parole. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to sign as many times as you want me to. Should I sign and leave right now? Whoa, what's the hurry? Do you have an urgent meeting or something? I need you for something. It might be a little inconvenient for you. Our toilet is clogged. Our men tried, but it doesn't work. Would you be able to? It's not that big of a chore, but if you feel uncomfortable, then you don't have to. But of course, Prabhu can't reject this offer because this man is clearly going to abuse his power. So he says yes, and Ammu is exiting the bathroom and she's getting Ravi's food ready when Prabhu passes by her to go fix the toilet. Ammu, however, stops her walk to the area where they normally eat and looks towards Ravi's desk where his gun is laying. When Prabhu's all done, he signs the registry and is walking out when Ravi calls out to him again. Ravi runs his hands all over Prabhu's body, most likely looking for his gun, thinking that Prabhu might have stolen it. And he lets go of Prabhu when he realizes that it's not him. Ammu sneakily shoves the gun underneath a file cabinet, and for the next couple of days, Prabhu watches his sister from afar. He comes to the police station twice a day where Ravi makes Prabhu do a bunch of chores at the station, and during one of these chores, Prabhu is sweeping the floors in the police station when his sweeping reveals Ravi's gun. He hands it back to an officer who looks shocked at how the gun got into Prabhu's hands and then tries to accuse him of stealing it, but our boy is steady on his feet and maintains his innocence. One day, Prabhu tries to approach his sister in the city, but she shoves him off, and we learn that the reason Prabhu went to jail was because he killed 2 people, and his sister is mad at him for committing such an atrocity. At the police station that day, Ravi has lost it and is yelling at all of his colleagues, and Ammu learns from Satya that Prabhu hadn't come in to sign the registry that day. If he doesn't come in soon, then all of their jobs, especially Ravi's, will be on the line. But Ravi's screaming gets interrupted when Prabhu shows up. Ravi curses and threatens the man as usual before getting the signature and letting him go. Another day goes by and Prabhu is wiping the floors of Ravi's office while Ammu is plating food for him when Ravi starts giving out orders to Prabhu. Hey, under the table over there, by the files over there, and the toilet. Ravi had lifted the hand that was on the side that Ammu was on to point at the toilet, but Ammu backed away from his hand so quickly and then closed her eyes so tight, causing both Ravi and Prabhu to freeze. After a few seconds, Ravi side-eyes Prabhu and tries to play the whole thing off. Ammu, what's wrong? Were you scared? Ammu pastes on a big smile and says no. Ravi turns to Prabhu. She gets so scared like a little kid. Prabhu is smarter than to fall for that, but he doesn't say anything because his sister is slowly starting to let him back into his life. In fact, he's so happy about it that he goes to a local bar to drink, but he gets into a bar fight with somebody who had made a vulgar comment about his sister and ends up at the police station where Ravi beats him to a pulp. But Prabhu stands by his decision and his tongue is still as sharp as ever, even after all of the beatings. Ravi is sweating from all of the movement that I guess he had to do, and he's appalled by Prabhu, and he gets down to Prabhu's eye level. How is it possible that you still speak like that even after that beating? What kind of birth did you have? Sir, if this was 10 years ago, I wouldn't have even let you touch me. Even now, you're amazing, sir. You select people you know won't hit back and unleash your anger on them. Am I right, ma'am? And he looks over Ravi's shoulder where Ammu is peeking out of Ravi's office, and when Ravi turns to him with murder in his eyes, Prabhu corrects himself. Satya, ma'am, am I right? Satya is standing in front of Ammu, but she is like off to the side a little bit, so you know he was clearly talking to Ammu. But Ravi is beyond angry and beats him up before shouting, he won't change. Get out your notepad and write down what I say. Dear sir, Prabhu, who has committed 2 murders, I request that you cancel his parole. Prabhu rushes up to Ravi and starts pleading, but Ravi does not care. I warned him many times, but he continues to take the law into his own hands. Yesterday, he beat up 2 people so badly that they had to be taken to the ER. Realizing that Ravi isn't listening, Prabhu rushes to the men that he beat up and starts pleading with them to take back the case, but they don't listen. So he turns to Iqbal, but Iqbal says that he can't do anything, so he turns to Satya, who says that she can't help either. So he turns back to Ravi and starts begging again. But Ravi looks at Prabhu right in the eyes and says, yours sincerely, S. Ravindranath. And then he takes the letter and puts his stamp on it before holding it up in front of Prabhu. You were spouting nonsense about how you wouldn't have let me touch you 10 years ago. This is your parole cancellation or letter that I'm about to fax. Do whatever you can to stop it. Sir, you win, sir. Please, I'll do anything, please. But Ravi puts the paper into the fax machine and presses the button to send it. Prabhu stops pleading and his eyes turn red. He grabs Ravi by his collar and tosses him across the room. The entire station is silent for a while before Prabhu gets tied up and like 5 people with sticks surround him and start smacking him. Ammu is sitting in Ravi's office trying to block out the sounds when Ravi takes a seat next to her, letting out breaths like he was just exercising instead of torturing a man. You came to give me food, right? So do your job. Ammu plates his food and Ravi starts eating when he gets interrupted by another officer entering Ravi's office. Sir, apparently your boss is coming for a surprise inspection, and Ravi panics. He starts barking out orders to get the station into a presentable space. And when he sees Prabhu leaving, he stops him and orders the officers to throw Prabhu in the bathroom. He is not allowed to leave until they beat him black and blue. Ravi turns around to see Ammu still standing there, and he yells at her that she's not supposed to be here. Then why the fork did you have her bring you lunch every single day if she's not supposed to be here? Ammu starts picking up the lunch plates and bowls, but Ravi is getting agitated because she is not moving fast enough. Things only get worse when he sees his boss's car pull up outside the station and Ammu is still here. So he starts dragging her towards the bathroom. Ravi, what are you doing? I can't go in there. He's in there. So what? Get inside. And he pushes her inside and locks the door just as his boss enters the station. Ammu turns around to find a gagged Prabhu in the corner, and she silently makes her way to the corner farthest away from him. And the two sit in silence for about 2 seconds before Prabhu starts coughing. Ammu signals at him to be quiet, but that's not possible because the man looks like he's choking on his own spit. So Ammu goes up to him. I'm going to remove this, so please be silent. She removes the cloth and then backs away. Prabhu starts groaning because of all the beatings that he has taken to his body, and Ammu once again politely requests him to shut his mouth. Instead of getting beaten up like this, you could have just kept quiet. Ma'am, you stayed quiet, but you're still getting beaten. What did you say? What do you know about me? I know everything, ma'am. I've been watching women since I was young. They're all living like this. After I got out and saw my sister, I thought that maybe women were progressing, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Then what about you men? You, him, you're all the same. Ma'am, me and your husband are not the same kind of people. And why not? He hits people and you kill people. You are both the same. You're right, ma'am. That's a good point. But there's not a day that goes by that I do not regret what I did. Okay, fine, let it go. Why are you taking all of this? You could live your life, after leaving him. Why do you care about what I do, huh? I don't care. Then let it go. Even then, you don't have the right to say anything to me about my situation. He's making you clean toilets. He beat you like an animal, and what did you do? You hit him back, and what happened? He canceled your parole. Now can you go watch your sister get married? My situation is like that as well. I tried to leave, but it didn't work out. Prabhu starts crying. You're right. You're completely right. I never did a single thing properly in my life. I spoiled the last opportunity that God gave me to see my sister get married because of my anger. But even then, I have to watch her marriage. I'll escape from this place somehow. If I just run away, I can watch my sister's marriage. And after that, I'll come back for your husband and get my revenge. Ma'am, you won't tell anyone about this, right? Tell them about what? About my plan to escape. Are you really going to run away? And Ammu gets struck with an idea, but before she can say anything else to Prabhu, Iqbal opens up the door. Ravi and his superior have left. Iqbal goes to Prabhu and lifts him up, but Ammu chases after him. Sir, Prabhu, I have an idea. If it succeeds, you'll get what you want and I'll get what I want. We don't hear what that plan is, but Ammu heads home while Prabhu gets beaten even more at the station once Ravi gets back, before getting led somewhere with Iqbal and another police officer. In the midst of the transportation though, Prabhu pushes Iqbal and the other officer away from him and he starts running away. Iqbal groans in pain, causing the other officer to check up on him, and when Prabhu is out of sight, Iqbal starts saying, "Go, catch him, go!" The other officer runs after Prabhu, and when he's out of sight, Iqbal starts laughing. He's helping out Ammu by giving Prabhu the chance to escape. Of course, this news does not sit well with Ravi, and he issues an ultimatum to his entire station. I don't care what you guys do, by 6 p.m., I need Prabhu in jail. Do you guys, remember that shed that Ammu found in the very beginning of the movie? Well, this is where she decides to hide Prabhu. They clean it out so that he can stay there comfortably. And meanwhile, Prabhu's uncle is at the station making a scene because his nephew suddenly went missing while in police custody. Iqbal comes up to the uncle and starts yelling while Ravi is pulling his hair out. Why are you talking like we killed him? He was the one who pushed us away and ran away. Go tell your woes to whoever you think will actually listen to you. The uncle, angry now, walks away with the promise that he will do exactly that. He will tell someone who will listen and get them all fired. And all the other officers in the station turn to look at Iqbal like, why are you giving him ideas? Of course, this is all part of the plan, but no one needs to know that. Ammu is at home smiling as Ravi is pulling his hair out because of Prabhu. This is the happiest that she's been in a very long time. And the next day, Prabhu's uncle comes back with a crowd and they start protesting in front of the police station. And to make things worse for Ravi, they have evidence, CCTV evidence of Prabhu entering the station, but no evidence of him running away. So the media eventually gets involved, and Ravi's stress has gotten to a level where Ammu just can't help but smile every time he screams at her because she knows that she's inflicting at least a fraction of the pain that he has given her. Ravi's senior is getting irritated by the news, so he goes to Ravi to chew him out, and it's during this visit that Ammu enters the station with his lunch, and Ravi's boss turns to Ammu. "Hi Ammu, how are you doing?" "I'm fine, sir, thanks for asking." He smiles at her before looking down to see the lunch that she's carrying, and he turns back to Ravi. "Lunch. Go eat your lunch. Go." "Sorry, sir, I'm really sorry." No, there is nothing to be sorry about. Go eat your lunch." Ravi pulls Ammu aside. "What are you doing here? It's lunchtime." "Lunch? You don't have to bring me lunch. You don't have to bring me lunch any more. And he goes back to pacify his boss while Ammu turns around and leaves with a smile on her face. Ravi's attempt to pacify his boss are not working, and things have gotten so bad that an order has come up from the top down, and if they can't find Prabhu in 3 days, then Ravi will be suspended. Satya relays this information to Ammu, who starts laughing freely again with Linny and Prabhu. Ravi is now so tired from work that he doesn't even lift his hand anymore, and he doesn't even have the energy to fall asleep in their bed, which means no more intimacy. And 2 days pass just like that. Everything is going according to plan for Ammu, but Prabhu's sister Geeta is crying a day before her wedding because she believes that her brother is dead. Her fiancé is trying to console her, but the only thing that helps her calm down is joining the protests that her uncle is leading. Satya takes a photo of Geeta and sends it to Ammu, who shows it to Prabhu, and Prabhu is ecstatic. His sister forgave him and she still loves him. He goes outside to cry tears of happiness, and Ammu has one more bit of happy news for him. Geeta didn't want to get married in this situation, but everyone managed to convince her to go ahead with it. Tomorrow she's getting married just outside the station. Can you imagine how she'll feel when she sees you there? Both Linny and Prabhu turn to look at her because she's letting him go tomorrow. But if he shows up at his sister's wedding tomorrow, Ammu will lose the hand that she has worked so hard to gain. Linny tries to talk her out of it, but Ammu is resolute in her decision. It's not right of me to keep him here for my needs. This is the only promise that I made to him. I've decided that you're surrendering tomorrow. Then what about you, Ammu? Ammu just smiles at Linny, but later that night she looks at herself in the mirror and she can see her old beaten self making an appearance again. The next morning she opens the door for Prabhu and watches in despair as he walks away. She goes inside to start preparing lunch, but focusing is hard. She's dying thinking about having to go back to the hell of a life that she had before, and she's on the ground crying when her front door opens. Prabhu came back. Sorry, ma'am. I know how much you want to get rid of your husband. Even then you sent me away. You have a heart of gold. Now that I think about it, you shouldn't be here. You should be in a museum or something. If I leave you in a situation like this, my mom would never forgive me. Then what about your sister's marriage? She forgave me. What else could I possibly want? Then should we look for a place in the museum for you, ma'am? And Ammu starts smiling again. Prabhu, I don't know what else to say except thank you. In front of the station, Geeta gets married and Ravi is pissed off because he is about to lose his job. Meanwhile, Ammu is sitting with Prabhu listening to the man sing, and she heads home to start cooking dinner while humming the song that Prabhu was just singing when Ravi comes home and he hears it. And the man gets suspicious. Like, why is she so forking happy all of a sudden? He pulls out the recording device that he stopped listening to a while ago because he thought that she was under his thumb, and he starts listening to it the next day. His listening gets interrupted by his officers knocking on his door. They're here to convey some really bad news. Ravi's boss has launched a full-scale investigation on the situation. Ravi, however, for some odd reason, is still confident. If we want to survive, we all need to be on the same page. Otherwise, all of our lives will be trashed tomorrow. If we don't find him by tonight, we need to come up with a series of events, and tomorrow during the investigation, we all say the same thing. You can go now. And they all leave except for one person that Ravi asks to stay behind. Listen, I need you to delete all the footage that was recorded where we beat Prabhu, but make sure that it looks like we weren't the ones who deleted it. The officer leaves and Ravi turns back to listening to the recording, but his ears get blasted when all he hears is the blender turning. Ammu is making food for Prabhu and she goes over to invite him over. For the first time in a really, really long time, I sang a song yesterday. It's the song that you sang for me. So for that and for everything, I arranged a small thank you lunch. You have to come. Why do I need to come inside? I could just eat it here. No, you have to come. Why? What's the news? I just got a call from Iqbal. It seems that my husband might get suspended tomorrow. Then I can end this drama, and then you won't have to stay in this shed anymore. That's why. Prabhu smiles and follows her into their house, and meanwhile, back at the station, a few gangsters have joined the protest, and the officers start cleaning out the streets in front of the police station, and the officers then head inside their station and lock the doors. Ravi is busy deleting footage, Prabhu and Ammu are enjoying a lunch, and the gangsters who have joined the protest are getting ready to do something. And all hell breaks loose at the same time. While Ravi is telling people what footage to delete, he ends up seeing the footage of Ammu stopping Iqbal and Prabhu as they were exiting the bathroom. Suspicious, Ravi goes inside the bathroom to scope out the scene before he goes up to Iqbal. He looks like he wants to ask Iqbal something but thinks better of it, and he's about to go back into his office when he hears one of the officers humming a tune. It's the same tune that Ammu was humming last night. You sang something, right? Sing it again. I said, sing it again. The officer starts singing while shaking, and it's confirmed. That's 100% the tune that Ammu was singing last night. Hey, stop. Where did you hear this song? Sir, that Prabhu was always singing this song. He sang it in the station that day as well. Iqbal grows concerned. Sir, what's the matter? You're asking some really strange questions. Iqbal, did we search for Prabhu everywhere? Of course, we searched everywhere for him. No, we didn't. And he goes back into his office and starts listening to the recording device again. And in there, he can hear Ammu talking to someone about fish soup. But before he can hear what the reply is, a rock gets thrown to one of the windows of the police station. He goes out to see what's happening, and the gangsters that have joined the protesters have turned this peaceful protest into a violent one. And now that the protest has turned violent, there is nothing stopping Ravi from using force. And that's exactly what he does. Ravi uses this as a chance to drag Geeta's husband out and beat him to a pulp. Satya and Iqbal watch as the gangsters enter the station and starts trashing everything in sight. A few moments later, Ammu gets a call about the situation, and she quickly gets Prabhu out of the shed and goes back to the kitchen when Ravi comes home. And the moment he steps inside, he grabs Ammu by her hair, takes a spatula that she was using to make dinner and puts it into the fire in a way to get the handle nice and hot, and he corners her. Where the hell is he? Where is he? I heard his voice. If you don't tell me where he is, I'll smash your head. I don't know what you're talking about. He moves his hand so that it's around Ammu's neck. Why are you acting so innocent? You think I don't know what's going on? You're doing all of this because I hit you, right? You wanted to hide him, make me lose my job and get your revenge, right? Did you really think that I wouldn't have figured out what was going on? Please believe me. I don't know what you're saying. Please don't beat me. I have a reason to ask this of you. Ravi moves the hot handle to her mouth. You did all this and expect me to be okay with it? What's the reason? Why? I'm pregnant, Ravi. What? You're about to become a father. Oh my God. Are you this shameless? How can you tell me such a lie? Ravi, I'm pregnant. I wanted to tell you when you got home. I was even making a sweet/dessert to break the news to you. If you want, you can call the doctor and ask. I really am pregnant, Ravi. She holds his face, but Ravi smacks her hands away and calls the doctor. And he learns that Ammu is indeed pregnant, but he also finds out that the doctor lied to him because Ammu was considering an abortion. The doctor ends the call with a warning to look after her carefully because she knows what kind of person Ravi is. Ammu comes up behind Ravi, and after the call, she tries to quell his anger. Ravi, I was scared. I wanted to get an abortion, but I couldn't because I know that this is your dream, and now that's about to become a reality. I hid this from you, and I'm so sorry. And she hugs him from behind, placating him. And at night, Ammu is laying in bed, and she can't help but think about the words Ravi said to her in the kitchen. He clearly said that he had heard Prabhu's voice, but how does he know that? She's tossing and turning in bed, but it's Ravi that gets up instead. What happened? I can't sleep. I'm going out for a walk. He leaves the house and starts going through all of the recordings outside, and inside, Ammu starts rampaging the house trying to find this recording device. Outside, Ravi finds the recording of Ammu asking Prabhu about her fish soup, and inside, Ammu finds the recording device hidden in her rice container. She quickly hides the device in the rice and gets back into bed, and Ravi rushes to the shed to see if Prabhu is still there, but he is not. Frustrated, Ravi heads back, gets into bed, and turns to Ammu. He gets closer to her and he starts patting her on her arm. Ammu flinches with each pat, but she sits there quietly. The next morning, Ravi is woken up by a phone call, and it's not what he wants to hear. Prabhu has uploaded a video telling the public what Ravi did to him, and at the same time tells them about how Ammu helped him see his sister's marriage. He paints Ammu in an amazing light before saying he's going to turn himself in to Ravi's boss, and he ends the video by saying if anything happens to him on his way to turn himself in, then Ravi is the only person responsible for it. Ravi gets dressed and sits in front of Ammu, who is nonchalantly mixing some sugar into her coffee. Do you want some sugar? No, you hid him right under my butt, you cunning little bitch. Thank you. There's nothing more that you can do anymore. You can't really arrest him. If I do, I need to put him in front of my boss, and my boss is going to ask me where he was all these days, and I'll have to tell him that he was in my house, and then they'll suspend me and put me in jail. That's your plan, right? That's why he overreacted in that video. So now if I arrest him or make him disappear, I'm the one at a loss. This is brilliant. You're an even bigger criminal than him. How can I live in a house with you, Ravi, and not learn that much? You've surpassed me, Ammu. Now I've really fallen in love with you. I want to kiss you so hard and then smash your head against a wall and watch as blood slowly drips out. But anyway, you've won, so tell me what you want. What else could I want? A divorce? Of course. How can I stay with you after all of this? Go ahead, take it. Not only that, I want a video stating that you abused me. I need everyone to know what kind of person you are. Stop joking, Ammu. I'll only get suspended because of what I did to Prabhu, but if I admit that I abused you, I'll definitely go to jail, and I'll lose my job. Do I look like a fool? I'm going to divorce you, so take it happily. Why do you need anything else? Divorce takes time. In that time, you can come after me again. Once Prabhu's issue gets sorted, you can do anything you want to me again. I can't take that risk. I can do that to you now, too. I can kill you and then frame Prabhu for it. What do you say? Should I do that? You would kill me knowing that I'm pregnant? Ammu, do you really think that I wouldn't do anything to you just because my child is growing in you? Is that really what you think of me? I can just sleep with someone else and get another child. It's not that big of a deal. Just tell me where Prabhu is. Does your coffee have enough sugar, Ravi? What am I asking and what are you saying? Have you lost your mind? You should have taken the sugar when I offered it to you. You made a mistake. Ravi panics and opens the sugar container only to find his recording device in there. He lunges towards Ammu and holds her face. Ammu, you crossed the line. With my temper, shh, I'm not afraid of you. If I were in your shoes, I wouldn't be sitting here spouting nonsense anymore. And as she's saying this, she cups his face. Ravi lets out a scream and rushes out of the house. Meanwhile, with Linny's help, Prabhu is making his way to Ravi's boss's office. And outside the station, he meets his sister and he begs for her forgiveness. She forgives him and gives him a hug before he goes inside. Ravi shows up a few minutes later and he gets cursed out by the protesters as he makes his way into the station. He tries to meet with his boss, but he gets brushed off and has to sit in front of Prabhu, who is handcuffed to a chair. Prabhu, you're making a big mistake. From here, the only place you'll go is jail. I can do whatever I want to you in there. No one will ever say a word about it. Sir, do I look like someone who's afraid of you? Ravi raises his voice, but he gets told to shut up by the other officers, and that's when Ammu walks in with Satya. She bravely heads to where Prabhu and Ravi are seated, and she waits. Ravi gets up and starts begging her to leave, to not ruin his reputation. Ammu smiles at him and tells him to sit down. He does, and she turns to him. Do you know how many times I begged you just like this? Did you stop? Ammu, I should have never raised my hand against you. I'm sorry. And he has these big puppy dog eyes on his face and he places his hand on her forearm, but Ammu moves her arm away. Please leave. Please don't do this. Please understand my life, my career, everything will disappear. Please listen to me. Just please. His begging gets interrupted when his boss exits his room. Where is that idiot, Ravi? Ravi gets up and heads towards him, apologizing, but his boss sees Ammu sitting there and he brushes Ravi off. Give me a second, Ravi. Ammu, why did you do all of this? Sir, this is not the first time that I came to your office. When I came here a while ago, I thought Ravi stopped me, but that's not true. I stopped myself. But this time, I don't understand, Ammu. Ammu turns to look at Ravi. Tell him, Ravi. Do you beat me? Tell the truth, Ravi. Everyone is here. Do you hit me or not? Tears start to gather in her eyes and she's looking at Ravi, who is still silent. And she leads Ravi's boss into his room and lets him listen to the recordings that Ravi had on his phone. Remember that the recording device didn't only record Ammu's daily activities, it also recorded her screams every time Ravi abused her. Ravi gets dragged away by the police and Prabhu talks to a silent Ammu. Did you find it, ma'am? A word bigger than thanks. No, not really, Prabhu. I need to be honest with you. I'm missing my palace very much, ma'am. What do you think, Prabhu? Do you think we'll ever meet again? Prabhu just looks up at the sky, basically meaning that only God knows if the two of them will ever meet again. An officer comes into the room to take Prabhu away, and he actually gets time to say goodbye to his sister, and Ammu looks after him with a smile. As Ammu's leaving the station, she smiles up at Iqbal and Satya, and at home, Linny is asking Ammu what's next. Anytime someone used to ask me this question, I used to be afraid in the past, and that fear never let me do what was best for me, but it's not like that now. From now on, only good days await you, Ammu. What about your daughter? You do know that it won't make you a bad person if you choose to not have this child right now, right? I know, Linny. She then turns to face Linny with a smile on her face and she says that she's hungry. There's this restaurant near the market in their town with really colorful lights and she's been wanting to go there for such a long time now. And now's her chance. Someday in the future, Ammu finds herself back at the station handing a biryani to the beggar that she had talked to all those months ago. So, it looks like you're leaving for good this time. I'm happy for you. How do you know? You're no longer shaking in fear, and it looks like you've gained a lot of courage. Come, sit down. If you knew what I was doing was wrong that day, why didn't you stop me? Oh, that? Well, whether it's right or wrong, it's your decision. It's one that you have to make yourself, understand? And the two of them go back to eating their biryani. And that is the end. I just want to get this out of the way. I really hope that the people who watch this movie or are listening to this recap don't generalize this sort of behavior to groups of people. Like, no, not all men are like this. No, not all police officers are like this. No, not all Indian men are like this. And no, not all arranged marriages are like this. Domestic abuse can happen to anyone, and their abuser can be anyone regardless of their race, ethnicity, occupation, and even how their relationship came to be. If you want another example, you can see the same thing happening in Justin Baldoni's and Blake Lively's movie It Ends With Us, so please don't demonize whole groups of people because of this story. This is just one of many, many cases, and every case is unique and different, but I do hope that this elicits as much of an emotion from you as it did from me. I first watched this with my cousin. I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and she had recently given birth to a baby girl, my niece, and we had set up an area downstairs so that she could take care of the baby while we watched the film, and I absolutely hate crying in front of other people. Like, I will avoid it at all costs, so I was silently shedding tears while laying on the floor. And now, watching it a second time, the experience is still just as raw. Like, I still cried, and this time, I'm not sure why, but it's not like the shock factor wore off or anything. I just got so much more angry than I did the first time around. And I think it's so strange because I knew the story. This was my second time watching it, but the beginning, like, still got me. I was literally smiling as I watched their newlywed days. I kicked up my feet when everything was so wholesome and cute and flirty, and the crash just guts you so much. Or at least it gutted me. I'm so incredibly glad that the ending was so hopeful, because if it wasn't, I would never have recovered from that. And I know that in real life, situations are much more complicated and this sort of ending is just not at all realistic. But personally, it felt very hopeful. Like, she's not magically going to get better. She'll still have to work through the issues for the rest of her life. But at the end of the day, she changed her life. She saved herself. And to me, that's very empowering. I'm not saying that you have to go through domestic abuse by yourself. In fact, Ammu sought out help from Prabhu, Iqbal, Linny, Satya, her doctor, but it goes a long way to just gather the courage to take that first step. Anyway, as I tend to do, I was looking at Reddit for people's thoughts on the movie, and I found a few comments of people mentioning that they would have loved to have gotten more of Ravi's backstory to try to, like piece together how he became a monster, but I'm actually really glad that they didn't do that. I think giving him some sort of like sob story about how his past influenced his present would have humanized him, and I think a great example of this is actually Snape from Harry Potter. He tormented Harry for years, but honestly, I guess I forgave him for it when I realized how badly Harry's father had treated him. Like, I know that's wrong, but I just couldn't help it. That was my natural response, regardless of how wrong it was. So I'm incredibly glad that they left Ravi as a monster. And, sometimes people don't need to have traumatic events in their life happen to be monsters. Sometimes people are just evil without reason. So I like that they never tried to humanize him. There's absolutely no reason to justify why he decided to turn around and inflict this much pain onto another person. Like, no amount of sob story will ever be enough. And I also like the ending scene of this movie a lot, the part with the beggar. I'm not completely sure if this is applicable to abuse cases as much, but I think it's very true in just everyday decision making that every decision you make should be your own, because the moment things don't work out the way you want it to, you can't escape the blame and responsibility by saying, but they said that I should do it. It was your choice, you made that choice, so you have to take responsibility. And I guess kind of on a similar note, like, don't take shit from people who blame the issues in their life on you. You did not cause those issues. Anyway, that was completely off topic, and to end on a little bit of a lighter note, the acting was absolutely superb, and I'm looking kind of sad that more people didn't watch the movie. Naveen Chandra, who played Ravi, in my opinion, is such an underrated actor in the Telugu industry. I would love to see him in more movies like this, and if you want to watch some gems from him, I personally really liked Tripura and Nenu Local. In Tripura, he is a hero, and in Nenu Local, he plays a villain role again, which he's just a really good actor, that's all I have to say. This was the first movie I've ever watched of Aishwarya Lekshmi's, but she was excellent, and I'm looking forward to watching more of her movies. I have seen that she does rather unconventional roles, and I actually saw a clip of her taking on the typical hero fight. I'll have to watch that, and hopefully I'll get to it soon. On another note, I actually translated the dialogues myself using this little noggin up here, and it was while I was doing this that I realized how disrespectful you can be in Telugu without blatantly cursing people out. And I also learned that curses in Telugu are a lot harder to translate than I thought. The nuance gets missed in my translations, and for that I apologize, but it is what it is. I tried my best. On a completely different note, I am taking a trip with a couple of my friends to Iceland. We're going to see if we can catch the northern lights, so I probably won't be able to post next week, so I just wanted to give those of you watching a heads up. Anyway, that is all. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next week. Bye!